start again. It's a rich thing.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Bull Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to continue the NBA draft prospects for the Chicago Bulls, ladies and gentlemen, and considering all avenues with the 18th overall pick in the NBA draft and who the Chicago Bulls may select with that 18th overall pick. Now, today I've got a very interesting player, as he has been rumored to already have an interview with the Chicago Bulls, and his name is MarJon Beauchamp. He's a very interesting player, probably not the player that many people would expect us to select with the 18th overall pick considering our needs, but as I've always said, Arturis feels like the type of executive that will always go for the best available. So if you have the right attitude, the right qualities, and potential future, I guess, on this team, then you're most likely going to be intrigued about these types of players. And AK taking, I guess, an interview with MarJon Beauchamp pretty much indicates that every single player that could potentially go with that 18th overall pick, all the best available players, whether they're guards, forwards, or centers, will most likely be targets for the Chicago Bulls, and I guess they will have to select accordingly to what they feel is the best available. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about MarJon Beauchamp potentially joining the Chicago Bulls. Do you think he will be the best available at the 18th overall pick? I obviously have my personal opinion that I will discuss later on in this video. But at the end of the day, the fact that there are interviews about guards, potential forwards on this team, in my opinion, says a lot about what the Chicago Bulls are going to do in this NBA draft. So, let's talk about his ability, ladies and gentlemen. I want to say that he took a very interesting route in order to, I guess, progress his development. He actually went to the NBA G League. He played for the Ignite team, ladies and gentlemen. Now, it's a very interesting way to, I guess, define your development when you're entering the G League, because you're going to be versing a lot of guys that are desperate to make the NBA, probably already a little bit more physical, a little bit older, a little bit more, I guess, defined as a player. And they want to have opportunities in the NBA as well, whether it's 10-day contracts or a season year type of situation. A lot of the players in the G League are there to try and get an opportunity in the NBA. So they have a lot to play for. And playing those types of guys is very different to playing college guys, ladies and gentlemen, because in college, you're playing players your same age. You're probably playing the college players that are very similar, if not a little bit lower of a skill set. So I do feel like playing in the G League is a very interesting route to go in. And it's also the route that I feel like many people will go to in the future. So I do have to say it's a very big decision for MarJon Beauchamp to take, and I thought he was successful in that avenue as well, and I feel like a lot of teams will be interested because he went in a different direction, and in my opinion he did fairly well. Now, he averaged 15.1 points for the Ignite team, 5.8 rebounds, 1.6 assists, and I think his three-point percentage wasn't necessarily present whatsoever. I believe there was I think he had 2.8 attempts per game and he made 0.8 of them. So not a great three-point percentage. Not necessarily a good mid-range shooter either, but he is a scorer, which, how could that be? Mainly his scoring came from around the paint. He's a very good scoring slasher. He is someone that knows how to get to the basket. He's someone that has a lot of moves in order when it comes to spin moves, driving with both hands, finishing with both hands. I feel like that is a very good thing for MarJon Beauchamp to have. And that's how he got his 15.1 points per game for the Ignite team. A lot of the time, it was slashing to the basket. It was running plays where he grabs the ball from the point guard or whoever is passing to him, slash to the basket, get M1s, get opportunities. That's where he got the bulk of his buckets from. So that's very interesting to know, because if you're looking as a scorer, he doesn't have a three-point shot yet. His mid-range shot is okay, but obviously there's so much room to improve in that avenue as well. But his main scoring ability has come from in the paint. So we've got to take that as, I guess, a positive and a negative for the Chicago Bulls. Someone that can finish around the rim, very, very positive. You obviously want players that are not afraid of contact, not afraid to be physical in the paint. I think MarJon Beauchamp can work on that as well, because again, adapting that physicality to the NBA level is a very interesting thing for all players to really go through. I said this about Devon Dotson 2 years ago, that he can finish at the college level. He can endure contact at the college level, but enduring that contact at the NBA level is much, much different. So obviously I feel like MarJon Beauchamp will have a very similar avenue, but playing in the G League and playing against physically better guys might help suit him into the NBA level a little bit more. Again, I think his potential on the defensive end is actually very, very, very decent as well. One thing to note is 5.8 rebounds, and he also averaged 1.6 steals for the Ignite team. So there is potential on the defensive end as well. As a 6'6", 199-pound player, he could potentially be a guard or a forward for the Chicago Bulls team. And I'd mainly see him, the way that I see him play, looking at his highlights, looking at his build, he's a very slim type of player. He obviously can work on his physicality. I see him as a shooting guard on this team. I don't necessarily see him as a small forward, just because I feel like the options that we actually have at the small forward position, even the guys that we're linked to at the small forward position, probably do play a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger than what MarJon Beauchamp would be on this team. So I do feel like if he was selected for the Chicago Bulls, he'd most likely be playing as the shooting guard position for the Chicago Bulls. But he has played at the guard position. He's also played at the forward position for the Ignite team. So keep that in mind as well. He has very good defensive ability. Some may say he gambles too much on the defensive end, and at the end of the day, that is a worry at the NBA level. Hoping that he can be mature enough to kind of play the right way on defense will have to be a necessity going forward. At the end of the day, as much as he has the ability to score, and we'll get to his weaknesses on the scoring end a little bit later because it's not defined, it's not perfect, but being, I guess, matured on defense has to be very important going forward. And again, when you're a rookie, you gamble, you go for steals, you get the steals, you go all the way in transition, and helps a lot. He is a good transition runner. He is a guy that will run the floor. At the end of the day, he is a guy where if you get a defender one-on-one, I would back MarJon Beauchamp to beat them almost every single time. That's how important he has been in terms of his slashing ability for the Ignite team. But defensively, he has to play matured. He can't gamble too often, because if you do gamble a lot, you're going to be, I guess, caught out of position a lot on the defensive end as well. So we have to be very careful, and he has to balance that out at the NBA level. We'll wait and see if he can be able to do that. Looking at some of his negatives, because again, he's not exactly the most defined product, and that's exactly what you're going to get with the 18th overall pick. His negatives are, I feel like sometimes he does force the shot a bit too much. Being a slasher means that you're going to have to do some crazy moves that maybe are not in the flow of the offense just to try and get a bucket or try to get a foul, try to do something of that nature. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, he has the ability to maybe not score in the flow of the offense and try to force things up too much. We do have players like this already. We do have guys like Zach LaVine that can tend to force up shots when he's not in the right situation, or DeMar DeRozan, he does some things. He does the same things as well. Even Kobe White is a player that could do that. So we already have a lot of players on this team that you expect to stay on the Chicago Bulls. Some of them may leave, that will force shots up in terms of the NBA game. Adding another one, again, if he has a good ability to score, we probably won't mind that too much. But also, you got to be, I guess, realistic and say that forcing up shots at the NBA level at a 21 years old entering the NBA, that's not really a good look for you. He also is not a very good passer in terms of the NBA level, which is why I never classify him as a point guard. If anybody's saying he's a point guard, I will respectfully disagree, because he doesn't have good assist numbers for a point guard, and he definitely doesn't have a good turnover stat for a point guard. He averages 1.6 assists, yet his turnovers per game is 1.5. So I personally don't see him as a guy that's going to be dribbling up the court, trying to create plays for other people. I see the plays being made for him. I see him being more of an off-ball type player. I hope that he could be able to move a little bit more on the offensive end without the ball in his hands. He does have to work on that a little bit as well, because I don't see him having the ball in his hands trying to create for other people. He's not that player, and I don't think he will be that player going forward. I feel like he's going to be a guy that hopefully will learn backdoor cuts a little bit more, will hopefully go for putbacks and stuff like that, very similar to what Javonte Green does. But all in all, I don't see him as a point guard on this team. He'd be a very good point guard with his frame, 6'6" point guard. A lot of people would be very happy with that. But playmaking just doesn't seem to be part of his repertoire as of yet. And that's really it in terms of his negatives. I don't feel like there's too many negatives. I feel like the negatives that he does have, though, are big concerns. I don't really want a player that will go out of the flow of the offense. I don't really want a player that's going to force up unnecessary shots to try to get a bucket. I know these things at times will have to happen, and obviously we have players that can do that already. I don't think we need to add another one. But at the end of the day, he's an interesting prospect because we already have a lot of point guards, shooting guards on this team. So interviewing a guard means a lot of things. It could potentially mean that Zach LaVine is a bit of a worry in terms of his contract. Maybe we have to find somebody that can play that shooting guard position and be a scorer. That's probably why we're interviewing someone like him. Potentially mean that the Lonzo Ball knee injury might be a factor in which we're trying to get the best guard available in the NBA draft. It could potentially mean the end of Kobe White. Kobe White is going to be a restricted free agent in 2023. This could potentially be the time we can either trade Kobe White or for a veteran guard. Maybe we trade him for some other position that can be a shooter, whatever the case may be, and we bring in another guard to take his spot. This could mean a variety of things, but I guess with the 18th overall pick, would I take MarJon Beauchamp? To be honest, out of the two players I've discussed so far for the Chicago Bulls in EJ Liddell and Mark Williams, MarJon Beauchamp at the end of the day has great positives, but I personally would not pick him out of those two options that I've already discussed. I feel like he's the third option out of the 3 videos I've made, because I feel like the negatives to his game are awfully concerning. As I said before, I don't want a player that's going to force up shots. I don't want to have a player that will go out of the flow of the offense. At the end of the day, if he's able to do that effectively at the NBA level, many people will say we probably should have picked him up. But looking at the Ignite game, looking at the G League game for him and doing that, also his turnover issues is a big concern for me as well. I don't actually think he has a good free throw percentage either for a guard. So all things considered, I do think it's a possibility that we could get him, but I don't think he's my first choice. He is projected to go around our pick as well. The last mock draft I saw was 19th. He could potentially be a later second round pick as well, depending on how the chips fall and who teams want to select. But he's around that range. He's around where EJ Liddell is in terms of the range that he could go for. So I'm intrigued. I'm interested. It's very interesting to know that we will be talking to guards in the future as well, considering we do have some guard issues, despite us having a number of guards. The Lonzo Ball injury, the Zach LaVine dilemma, Kobe White, a lot of people want traded. So all things considered, it is very interesting that we are talking to guards. But at the same time, I just feel like EJ Liddell and Mark Williams are both better options for that 18th overall pick than MarJon Beauchamp. But the fact that he's played in the G League is something you can't ignore as well, because I do feel like it is much harder to get these types of stats in the G League than it is in college. I feel like at college you could be a 20-point per game scorer the way that MarJon Beauchamp likes to play, but at the same time at the G League it might be a little bit more difficult. But at the end of the day, that's my personal belief. Hopefully you agree or disagree. Let me know in the comments below, and we'll continue to discuss more players in the future. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.